Bonjour à tous. Hello. Are you ready to do our flower thing? Okay. So, yes, I will be. I am working on the Pardo rhodochrosite and I will be posting it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to post it tonight, but you'll have it tomorrow, hopefully, if nothing happens. And I can tell you that it will be way prettier than the Primo, as usually Pardo is. Hi, Lawrence. And also, as I announced, and just in case you've never been, I suggest you do check my Facebook page because I post daily all kinds of new things going on. Um, I started working on a Pardo color description because I realized that people who now start will not have the full, because it's an information that you cannot find anywhere. Hi, Carol. Because in the jewelry line of Pardo, the colors, number one, the colors have gemstone names. They don't have regular names. And the problem is that sometimes the gemstone name doesn't really have much to do with the color itself. Bonsoir, Cécile. Or it's the color of a rare variety of that specific gem. But it's not only that. The thing is that some of the colors in the jewelry clay are opaque. Some of them have a certain degree of translucency, and some have a higher degree of translucency. Some don't have pearlescence, some have a little bit of pearlescence, and some are quite strongly pearlescent. So that is very important when you're trying to imitate a gemstone. And if you don't know ahead of time, especially because of the fact that the Pardo transparent, translucent is not transparent when it's, hi Teresa, when it is not baked and cooled, it's hard to figure out how that clay is. So I started working, I already baked all the colors that I have in the jewelry line. And they are baked. I already took photos. Now all I have to do, as soon as I finish with the tutorials that I'm making, I'm going to write an article on my website and I'll post the photos and with the information about each color and also with my recommendations on what gemstones they would be fit to be used. Because if you remember, like for the banded amethyst, I used ametrine. Now, ametrine does have a very, very, very slight amount of mica powder. And what happens with these specific clays in the jewelry line that have an exceptionally small, je vais dire en français dans un moment, Brigitte. Especially a very small amount of mica clay, and because the mica clay in Pardo is so fine, remember, some of you might remember that I did comparison between Cernet, Primo, and Pardo when it comes to the pearlescence and metallics. That minuscule amount of mica gives, you know how in certain stones you have the fractures, and the fractures look like they are pearlescent, but it's just actually just the cut of the crystal. And that tiny, tiny amount of mica, that's very, very fine, gives the clay exactly that look. So it is quite important to know ahead of time which clay does what and looks how once they are baked and cooled. And that's what I am working on. And no, I did not forget, I will make soon a tutorial on more on other metallic colors of Pardo. Donc, ce que j'ai dit, c'est que je travaille sur une fiche d'information sur les couleurs de Pardo Bijou, parce que certaines de ces couleurs sont opaques, d'autres sont transparentes, d'autres ont de la mica. Hi Dorothy. Si on ne sait pas en avance, vous ne pouvez trouver cette information dans aucune part. Et si on ne sait pas en avance quelles couleurs font quoi, c'est très difficile d'expérimenter et vous consommer un tas de pâtes qui est abîmée, donc vous ne pouvez plus l'utiliser spécialement parce que le Pardo translucent transparent n'est pas transparent quand il n'est pas cuit. Le Pardo transparent translucent devient translucent seulement après qu'il est cuit et refroidi. Donc, c'est pas facile de figurer quelle couleur de pâte ont de la mica dedans et quelles couleurs de pâte sont opaques et quelles couleurs de pâte dans la ligne des bijoux sont transparentes. So, let's go ahead and start doing some applique flowers for the spring to come. And remember that next Sunday we will do flower canes, the millefiori type. And I mean, not necessarily the tiny, but I will show you how to apply flower canes on various shapes of beads, because depending on the shape of the bead, you apply the cane differently if you don't want a lot of distortion. Hi, Jules. Okay, so let's go first and make some beads out of some scrap clay. And I went first in the thin setting, so it would be a little bit conditioned, and now I'm going to go in the thick setting. And if you want the best way, if you want to make several beads and if you want them to be the same size, what you need to do is to use the same cutter. Now, you know that generally for measuring, I use the 1 1/4 inch one. Oui, c'est ce que j'ai fait. J'ai fait des petites pastilles de toutes les couleurs que j'ai dans la ligne bijoux. Déjà, je les ai cuites. J'ai pris les photos. Ce que je dois faire maintenant, quand je vais finir le tuto, je travaille. Je vais faire un article dans mon site et télécharger les photos et tout ça avec toute l'information et avec mes recommandations sur quelle imitation de pierres précieuses chaque couleur est bonne. Et aussi, c'est une autre chose, c'est si tu n'as pas les couleurs et tu veux faire une spécifique imitation, comment vas-tu savoir quelle couleur acheter? So what I said, because Brigitte said all you need to do is to make little pieces and bake them. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I did. But the problem is that if you have never worked with them and you want to try a specific gemstone, without knowing all the information, how are you going to know what colors to buy and not waste money on colors that you are not going to use and you don't need? Hi, Soile. Okay, so as I was saying, I normally, whenever I give quantities, I use this and I use the clay on the thicker setting. But for beads, because if I would use this for a bead, that would be a humongous bead. For beads, generally, this would be kind of biggish beads. They would be about this big. And for smaller beads, you can use smaller cutters. But if you want to make beads that are the same size, you need to use the cutter and cut the pieces that you're going to use on your beads. And we are going to make several shapes of beads. So let's go with these for now. And we did before, I don't know if you remember, but we did a pendant with applique. Also with flower applique. But this time we are going to do beads, because there are a few things that you need to take into consideration when you're making the beads. And until you make a certain number of beads and you make a certain number of necklaces and you deal with them, you don't realize that they might be problems. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, for example, it's very nice to make a bead. So what I'm doing right now is to just make these into spheres. You don't realize that when you're making a bead, for example, and let's say that you cover the whole bead with little applique flowers, but then you'll have the hole, right? And number one, if you're going to put any kind of applique here, for one, you won't be able to use any kind of bead caps. Not only that, but if you'll have several beads touching each other, that will in time wear out the little petals or whatever other applique you have. So you really have to think ahead of time your bead on what you intend to use it for. Now let me say it real quick in French. Je sais qu'on a fait de l'appliqué de fleurs avant sur un pendentif dans une de mes lives. Mais sur les perles, c'est un peu différent parce qu'il y a beaucoup de problèmes qui peuvent apparaître si vous ne pensez pas. Et vous n'allez pas penser que lorsque vous faites beaucoup de perles, beaucoup de colliers, et vous trouvez le problème. Mais c'est déjà, vous avez fait quelques perles et... Oh, please. Yeah, you'll not be able to sand applique beads. Donc, par exemple, si vous allez mettre des appliqués, des fleurs appliquées vers le bout de la perle, vous n'allez pas être capable d'utiliser, je ne sais pas le mot pour ça, Cécile peut m'aider, bead cap. Je peux vous montrer ce que je veux dire, mais je ne sais pas le nom en français. Ce sont ces petites choses que vous mettez à la fin des perles pour qu'elles sont plus jolies. Et pas seulement ça, mais aussi si vous mettez des petites pétales et tout ça, et vous allez avoir des perles qui touchent tout le temps et vont se frotter, ça va abîmer les pétales. So you have generally to think. Another thing is that if you have an applique that's very elevated and also very thin, then I think what's going to happen if you are going to wear that necklace on a knitted blouse, it's going to keep snagging. So you also want to avoid that type of applique. And then there are other things like if you're using any kind of mica powders or whatever, you'll have to varnish the bead, because otherwise it will rub off. Not only it will rub off, but it will rub off on your clothes and it might stain your clothes. Hi, Carrie. Just me talking, that's all you missed. Donc, ce que j'ai dit, il y a d'autres choses à considérer. Par exemple, si vous mettez un petit appliqué, une petite pétale ici qui est un peu trop élevée et elle est assez mince, si vous portez ce collier sur quelque chose qui est tricoté, il va, how do you say, comment est-ce que tu dis snag? Ça peut déchirer votre blouse. Ou si vous mettez des poudres mica sans mettre du vernis, alors pas seulement le mica va s'effacer parce qu'elle frotte en temps, mais aussi elle va frotter sur vos vêtements et peut tacher vos vêtements. Donc, il y a beaucoup, s'accroche, oui, c'est ça. Il y a beaucoup de choses que vous devez penser quand vous faites vos perles, spécialement quand vous faites des perles texturées et quand vous faites des perles avec appliqué. So, bonjour Aldona. So, as I said, there's a lot of things that you need to think about whenever you make texturized beads and when you make beads with applique and the materials that you're using on the beads. So, generally speaking, this would be the most common bead ever. As you have seen, when I pierced it, I gently, slightly flattened it. So that was not the best way of piercing a bead. And I will show you how to pierce a bead properly. Okay, so number one, you get your clay. Maintenant, je montre comment faire une perle parce que celui-ci, quand j'ai fait le trou, j'ai un peu aplati la perle parce que ça n'a pas été un trou bien fait. So, you first take your clay and you're going to obviously fold it so you can get a sphere. And then you're going to round it in your palms. The thing is, try to keep it in this area of your palm, because the moment you go a little bit wider, it will happen exactly what happens with the swirly beads. You'll get it a little bit pointed, and I'll show you. This is, and always press very hard because you'll have to press until you have no more folding lines for when you folded the clay. Donc, ce que j'ai dit, quand vous faites les perles, vous devez appuyer fortement jusqu'à vous ne voyez plus de lignes de quand vous avez... again, je ne peux pas trouver le mot. Mais essayez de maintenir la perle dans cette région de votre main, parce que si vous allez plus loin, vous allez obtenir des perles pointues comme sur les perles en swirl. Fracture, c'est ça. So, let's see. If I go here and see, I'm practically rubbing the raised area of my palms. If I go here, it's going to be a nice rounded bead. But if I go wider, it will start getting ovalish up to the point that it will get those little points like for the swirly beads. See how it started getting pointed? And you don't want that. So you want to go perfectly round. Then you get a needle. The needles are the best. If you want to poke holes, pierce your beads before baking them. So first of all, the way that I found it, you know, your brain kind of works by itself. So the first thing that you want to do is to insert the needle and then try to rotate the bead very gently, because if you're not going the right way, the bead will start going off center and you can see it. See, if I do like this one is off center. You can see how it goes off center. So it needs to be a little bit more centered. The thing that I found, your brain already knows, if you put your finger here and in your mind you connect the tip of the needle with your finger and you tell your mind where you want to feel the tip of your needle, it will happen. With me it's a little bit more complicated because I have nerve damage, so I don't always feel the tip of my fingers. But don't press hard, just twirl. And you can check from time to time if your bead is well centered. See how now it's centered, it doesn't wobble anymore. Donc, ce que j'ai dit, quand vous faites le trou dans votre perle, si vous voulez faire le trou avant cuisson, pour avoir votre perle bien centrée, d'abord percez un peu et ensuite faites comme ça, parce que vous allez voir si la perle n'est pas bien centrée, elle va aller comme ça. Ensuite, votre cerveau fait un travail meilleur que vos yeux ou vos mains. Si vous mettez votre doigt ici et vous dites que vous voulez sentir le bout de l'aiguille ici, votre cerveau va faire tout ça. Pour moi, c'est un peu plus difficile parce que j'ai les nerfs du bout de mes doigts un peu damagés, donc je ne peux pas sentir très bien. Mais en général, ne poussez pas. Allez très doucement en tournant l'aiguille et je peux sentir le bout de l'aiguille. Elle est ici et ma perle est bien centrée. Et lorsque vous faites ça encore très doucement, poussez un peu plus et ensuite vous allez de l'autre côté et vous faites la même chose. Vous mettez votre doigt justement sur le trou qui est ici. So once you got on the other side, you do the same thing and you put your finger exactly on top of that hole, and then you do the same thing, waiting for the needle to touch the tip of your finger. As I said, for me, it's a little bit more difficult because I have all that nerve damage and I already managed to uncenter my bead. But generally speaking, see, this time I got it pretty much okay. And only after you do your first thin hole, you can enlarge it by using, generally owls are good. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but this kind of stuff. And this I got on Amazon. It was very cheap, only that it took about 3 weeks to get it, but it's very sturdy and it has a nice wooden handle. And after that, you go with the wider one. And you can also use the ones that are for that baking rack from Sculpting. Donc, vous ne faites jamais le trou large dès le début. Vous faites, si vous avez besoin d'un trou plus large pour une corde qui est plus grosse, faites d'abord le petit trou et ensuite utilisez une grosse, je ne sais pas comment on appelle cet outil en français, mais généralement, c'est ce que vous avez besoin. Ou vous pouvez utiliser ça, c'est de sculpter. Ça, j'ai acheté sur Amazon. Ça a été très bon prix, mais ça a été presque 3 semaines avant que je l'ai reçu parce que ça vient de Chine, je crois, mais ça a une très bonne qualité. Ah, vraiment, à pas savoir. C'est pourquoi je peux plus le chat en anglais. Let me see. I think I'm missing on the chat, or the chat's not working anymore. No, I didn't. You ladies just didn't say anything for a while. Hi, Deborah. So let's go for another type of bead. This time, let's see how to make cylindrical beads. Now, cylindrical beads are fairly easy to make. Again, I wouldn't recommend to start like this if you don't know already how to do a roll without trapping air. I would still say go for a sphere. Always start with a sphere because it's the best. Yeah, it all depends on what size of hole you need, because it depends on what you're going to use to string your beads. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, you can use a darning needle, and I showed how to make one of these. There's a tutorial I made a while back on how to make this tool out of a regular needle. You just put a wire through the ear and kind of twist the wire so it wouldn't come off, and then you just cover it with polymer clay, and you have a nifty little sculpting tool. So let's go back to the cylindrical one. You make again a sphere, and then you take whatever you use to make to roll snakes or cylinders or whatever, and you roll it a little bit, and then you turn it on the side and you flatten it, because this way you'll get beautiful even cylinders, and you just keep doing this until you get a perfectly shaped cylinder. It might take a few turning it up and down, and this way you can make it longer or you can make it flatter, depending on how you need your beads to be. And then once you made your cylinder and you have it nice and straight, because that's the main problem you'll have, is to make it perfectly on the right angle here. So once you did that, it's much easier to poke a hole, because what you can do, you can just place it straight and then find the center, and then just go, and again go with this motion, because otherwise you're going to push in a little bit the middle of the bead, and then do a little bit like this, and then all you have to do is to turn it upside down, find the little hole the needle came up through, and then go again, and that way you'll make your hole perfectly in the middle. And again, you can enlarge. See, I have a little air bubble here. Now, I would not recommend, because I'll show you what happens, I would not recommend to roll it on the poking utensil, because if you do that, the hole will get larger and larger. But and that is how we make the tube beads. But just do this. If you need to redo the shape, you'll have to just redo pretty much the whole. But this time you can go gently with the larger one, and you can hold the bead a little bit up so it wouldn't collapse while you're poking the hole. Now let's turn this into a tube bead. Yeah, believe me, I have sometimes problems making this properly because, as I said, I have nerve damage in the tip of my fingers. So if I don't feel, it's hard for me to feel where it's supposed to go. Bonsoir, Sylvie. Merci, merci. Et tu sais que tu peux regarder ce live après, donc c'est pas un problème. Hi, Tina. Haven't seen you in a while. So let's do a tube bead. The way that I like to do them the best is with the toothpicks. If you need a wider hole, I would recommend you use a bamboo skewer. Alors, on va faire une perle tube. Ce que je préfère utiliser, c'est une... comment ça s'appelle? Mais si vous avez besoin d'une perle tube qui a le trou beaucoup plus large, vous pouvez utiliser ces bâtons qu'on utilise pour faire du shish kebab. That's good. So we are going to use this one, or maybe let's make a new one because it's easier. And actually on the tube beads, you can start directly with this. You can enlarge that cylindrical bead, but it's better to start directly with a sheet. And that way you can actually already place a veneer and have it already done, and you can make the sheet thicker. But you gently roll it around the toothpick. And you can bake it on the toothpick. The only problem you might be having is when you cannot remove the toothpick after it's baked, just reheat it a little bit and then it will come off. Because as the clay cools off, it might shrink around the toothpick. So gently roll it, and then see how you have this here, and it doesn't look good, does it? Because let me try and make because if you cut it straight, it's not going to be perfectly round. And it's not going to be perfectly round either, because here we have two sheets and here we have only one. So what we can do, if we want to do just one sheet thickness, if you don't want to do it, wrap it twice. See, if we go here and we unwrap it right here, you just go a little bit diagonally. And now you have it good. Yeah, that would be good, Soile. Okay. And then you gently press, but again, remember that the more you'll roll this, never roll holding on these, because if you roll holding on this and pressing down, you're going to just enlarge this, and I'll show you that in a second. But press on the whole of the bead, and it will happen no matter what. Even if you use this, you'll still enlarge the hole. So be very careful and press only where you have the seam. Then to make the bead perfectly ended, you should go also on my website, because the new website now I started putting a lot of information on. It's better than my blog. I'm going to pretty much give up on that blog and open another blog on the website. So you just take your blade and find the place where it's the shortest. and then just gently roll it. And see how now you got the end of the bead perfectly cut. And you do the same on the other side. And again, you have, and I didn't cut all the way through. And we have the bead perfectly cut on both sides now. And but let me show you what happens if you press, if you roll too much, or if you press on the toothpick itself. See? Now, of course, you can go for this, and I do make sometimes beads like this. To be very honest, when I want to do very good ends, I generally put another color or maybe even the same color after it's baked. So you first bake it and then take like a little, let me show you. You take like a little, trying to figure out if I have any bead here. Oh, my little teddy bear. My little teddy bear. It's always here. But not this, because I know I had some tube beads here somewhere. Anyway, let me take this and try and show you with this. So after you bake it, oh my goodness, somebody farted really bad. After you bake it, you place your toothpick in there or whatever you use. Okay, this one is full of stuff. I cut something with it. So this won't work. But anyway, imagine that your toothpick is here, right? And then you place whatever size you need this to be, and you place it through the toothpick, but after the bead is baked. And you don't really need to put any kind of bake and bond, and then you just do this. And remember how if you keep pressing baked clay against raw clay against baked clay, it will come off by itself. You don't even have to, let me show you. So you don't even have to trim it. Let me see. So this is raw clay on baked clay. If you just do this, look what happens. You get an absolutely perfect edge. So this is what you do on the bead. And then all you have to do is to just rub a little bit, and you have perfect ends on the bead. Yep, that you can do bails, and not only that, but you can do, remember how I did those Natasha earrings, Natasha bead earrings? You can do beautiful caps. Donc, si vous voulez, parce que Carol a demandé comment faire les bouts très bien finis, et j'ai dit que d'abord, vous devez cuire la perle tube. Et ensuite, vous mettez vous faites un petit disque et vous mettez ce que vous avez utilisé, vous savez, le cure-dent, c'est ça le mot, le cure-dent, ou ce que vous avez utilisé. Et ensuite, vous mettez le disque sur le bout de la perle, et toujours quand vous frottez la pâte pas cuite sur de la pâte cuite, et vous faites comme ça, la pâte pas cuite va se casser d'elle-même et vous pouvez faire des finissages absolument parfaits. Et tout ce que vous devez faire, c'est... Et si vous avez quelque chose comme ça, vous savez là... so if you have this little bit of smudging, the best way is... Yeah, you can do cones. I'll show in a minute. We are not to the cones yet. You just use a little bit of alcohol and you take this off. And you have a, oops, a perfect bead end or bead cap, whatever you want to name it. No, not necessarily. I never found them to come off. I guess it's too small and there are itty bitty fissures in the end. But if you want, you can use that, of course. You can use that. I tried the method of trying to finish the ends with what liquid clay, and it will still stay soft. So it's not a good. And besides, you cannot sand it or anything. Now let's do another shape of bead. Let's do a square bead. Well, yeah, I said that we will be talking about beads. And the square bead, we always start with the sphere. And we always do it until there's no more fault lines. On va faire une perle cube maintenant. And all you need is, again, whatever you use. I always use my little acrylic block. And actually, let me clean it a little bit. And all you need to do is to just press it to make a cube. And just keep pressing until you make, and it's up to you if you want rounded corners. Oops, oh, I'm sorry, I just keep dropping stuff. It's bad weather here, overcast, so that really messes up my hands control. So if you want rounded corners, you can leave it like this, or if you want straight corners with perfectly pointy corners, then what you need to do is to actually cut the bead into a square. I personally prefer the rounded corners because that wouldn't poke, you know. But pretty much this is how you get a perfectly cubed bead, which I did not get right now, but it's just to give you the idea. And now let's make another cube to show you the poking of holes. Yeah, as I said before, my cervical spine is all messed up. I mean, to the point that the cord is compressed and messed up, so I don't always have control over my hands. I drop stuff and I lost feeling and all that. Okay, so again, it's very easy. It's exactly like with the cylinder to poke a hole. Yeah. Sayla, I think that you don't give enough credit to yourself. You should be a little bit more, confident. Just tell yourself, I can and I will. And you'll see how things will happen the right way. So the same as for the cylinder, you just place it down, find the middle, and then poke the hole until you feel that it touches the table. Donc, on fait le trou exactement comme pour le cylindre. Yeah, it's this weather, Tina. Okay, now let's see other shapes of beads. Yes, I know. You're adorable. I got a little Mr. Farty here. That's old man whisper. And I showed you a little bit on how to form some of these beads. I had one of the tutorials I posted was actually fun caning and beading or something like that. When I wasn't feeling good enough to actually make a tutorial, so I just taped myself while making canes and beads and covering beads with slices of cane. So now let's do a biconic. Actually, no, we need to do a tear-shaped first. Make one end pointy before we make both. Hi, Christy. Yeah, I cannot do yoga because I have those muscles in my back that are missing, so I cannot do 3/4 of the yoga poses. Okay, so again, we start from the sphere. And what I find really helpful myself, okay, so first poke the hole the same way as I've shown you before. Okay, my sphere is not a sphere. It's still not a sphere, but oh well. Going to be changed anyway. So poke a hole. And hold the hole. Then you can use the bigger hole if you want. Okay, and put it down. Let me try and move the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So place it down, push the bead down, and then start pinching towards the top. Don't worry right now about the roundness. On fait une perle comme maintenant. See, don't worry much about the roundness. Then you take it out and put it in the other way. And leave a little bit of room on top. And now just but remember, you'll have to pinch it back because it will have the tendency to enlarge at the hole. Okay, and you need to trim the end properly, and you'll do the same, only that you don't put it down. You'll do the same as for the tube beads to have a proper pretty end. And then, of course, you can turn it around and repeat. Hold on, this Hangout's turning the camera backwards. It's really disconcerting sometimes. So you can turn it around again and redo the flatness, and then if you want this part to be more flat, or you can just do it into a tear shape. And there's another thing that is interesting here when you want to do tear shapes and bicones. And I'll show you. Yeah, you could. Okay, let me show you something that always happens with the cones. Okay, let me try and find a little piece of white. I'm going to just place a little bit of white here. I'm going to place it like this, straight, and then just gently push it in. But if I am doing, I'm trying to hold my hand properly. Actually, I think at this point I can lift this back up. Look what happens if you keep doing this. Okay, a beautiful spiral. And then, of course, you can get the cone perfectly made again and trim the very tip if it's too thin and doesn't come out perfectly. Okay, now let's make a bicone. And the bicone is actually easier, even if it doesn't seem to be, but it's actually easier. And we go again with the sphere. I'm going to use most of the time on making beads and less on putting on appliques, but oh well. So hold here and hold here. And just on one side, do this and then turn it around. See, I'm holding it here. And there you have a bicone. And of course, you'll just have to be very careful to pierce it properly. But generally with this one, you just, if you watch the centering part, then you shouldn't have problems coming out on the other end. If you made your little cones. There we go. And you have your little bicone. And then another one that you can make is the donut. And the donut is Obviously very easy. Thank you, Carrie. Now the donut is fairly easy. So you just get, and this time you don't worry about flattening, right? You just press down in the center, and then you get, I don't know, the end of a paintbrush handle and twist a little bit. Let me get this back like this. And just press and twist a little bit and then turn it around and do the same thing. And it depends how flat you want it to be. But pretty much that's how. Now mine is not very flat because if I do go perfectly round, I'll hit the camera. But this is pretty much, see how I'm hitting the camera. I cannot do it properly. But this is pretty much how you obtain the donut bead. And of course, you can make it more round, you can make it more flat, you can make it more barrel-like, you can make it round shaped here or more squarish shaped. Then another very interesting shape of bead is the twisted bead, and that one you can make it in 3 and you can make it in 4. And it's the best used with stripy veneers, and I'll show you why. Let's put some stripes on this thing. Oh, the thing that you have, like for example, a striped cane, better than these stripy things. But I'm just making the stripy things to show you the way these beads work. I'm just putting some stripes on here. Okay. Now, once you have your little snake, just extend it. Keep the line straight for now. And I'll show you first with, and this is also from all types of African trade beads and from other areas of the world. So put them together. And then decide, bring in 3 parts. And then as you bring them in, twist them. And then once you twisted them and you brought them in, all you need to do now is to, I made them a little bit too big so you can, the circle is a little bit too big so you can see the design. But then you can keep them like this. Or you can actually round them up. So you can keep them like this, ovalize them a little bit, but see what happens, you get a new design with those stripes. And that's why it's so good to use with the striped cane veneer. or you can round them up, and then you have a whole new design on the bead. Yep. You need to work all the time. That's all that is important. Okay, now we have pretty much covered. Oh no, there's one more bead I wanted to show you, the double pyramid, which is also easy to make. So again, we start with the, yeah, kinda. We start with the sphere, and then it will be a little bit like the bicone, only that you hold these fingers like this and these fingers like this, and then turn it around and do it again, and just keep doing until you form your two pyramids properly. And then you can refine it a little bit, and the way that I like to refine it is to put it a little bit against the working surface to refine this little slope. And there you go, a little double pyramid bead. I love making beads. That's why I'm all the time make all kinds of beads. Okay, now let's take, obviously, whenever you put applique, you have to take into consideration, as I said, how far and elevated your applique pieces is going to be. Try to not let it be too far away from the bead itself. Okay, Whisper is limping. Just a second. You okay, baby? Yeah, excuse me a little bit. He needs to go outside. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be back in 2 minutes. He needs to go outside and I cannot put it off. Good baby. You need Mama to get you in bed? Oh, you can go by yourself. Yeah, okay. Sorry for that. All right, now let's take into consideration the applique part, depending on the type of bead we have. If we have a round bead Again, avoid placing any applique, and that is valid for all the beads, okay? Try avoiding placing any kind of applique towards the holes, especially if you intend to put any kind of bead caps. So on a square one, do not put anything on these sides, only on these sides. The same on the bicone and the pyramid, leave about 2 to 3 millimeters and place whatever you want to place here. Obviously on the donut and the cylinder, you only put stuff on the sides. And on the teardrop and cone, again, leave a little bit from here and leave a little bit on the very end. I've never seen a bowl full of beads. You've only shown me the cabochon. She never showed me the beads. Okay, now let's do actually an applique. So let's make a little flower. And remember how we did the applique on the pendant. You first make a snake. Actually a string, not a snake, because we are going very thin. And we will use equal. So generally the way I go, I just cut it in half, then I cut the halves in halves, and then those halves in halves again. And we need a little bead for the very middle. So we'll make a flower. And these are excellent to do applique. You just place it right in the middle. You can flatten this a little bit. And I normally work on my finger. So you can flatten it. You can use this, or you can use and see this one is a little bit too long. You can use this, or you can use a little what you call it, ball stylus. Donc, ce que j'ai dit essentiellement, c'est de ne pas mettre des appliqués vers les trous dans les perles, parce que ça va les damager. Oops. And then I just mildly flatten, because I don't care about the fingerprint, because it's going to be on the side that's on the bead. And this is how you make a regular petal. It's kind of hard to make it. I need to remove all this stuff because it has the tendency to focus on the other things. There we go. So I flattened the petal a little bit. Then I lift it, place it, then flatten it some more. Now, of course, you can either flatten it like this more if you want, or you can create little veins on it. Now, when you're doing a rose, No, because then you'd have to drench the bead in bacon bond or liquid clay, because otherwise they won't stick properly. That's why it's better to work with them raw. Okay, now for the roses, you definitely need a ball stylus. Let me grab mine. Oh yeah, those are awesome. Okay, so flatten it first on your finger, and then go with you can go with the bigger ball stylus. Okay, trying to make this focus. Come on. Doesn't want to focus. Anyway, lift it on your ball stylus. There we go. And then place it on the bead. And do the same with the other ones. So first you flatten it with the ball stylus. And again, you don't care about the fingerprint because that's going to be on the side that goes on the bead. And first you make pretty much like a daisy, but then you keep adding the petals. Oops. Come on. There. A. It didn't go where I wanted it to go. There we go. And then gently press. Okay. Gently press in the center. And you can lift these a little bit. So you never start from the center, you start from the edges and you stack them on top of the existing ones. If you go with just 5 or 6 of them in a circle, then it's a daisy. If you keep stacking more petals on top of the existing ones, then it's going to be a rose and it will look like a rose. And then the way that you finish it, come on, come on, you can do it. Maybe I should try a different color. The way you finish it is you flatten the petal and you kind of gently fold it. And you place it pretty much in the middle. And see, now I have half a rose here. It's pretty much like making fondant roses. Another thing that you can do, Lawrence, actually, you can make them on a pre-baked, but if you already know what design you're going to do, then you place, like for roses, for example, then you place just a dot of bake and bond, then place a dot of clay on the bake and bond, then wait a little bit, and then you can place all your petals sticking to that dot. But if you're making this type of designs, because of course you can go ahead and you can make, for example, little spirals and circles. And no, I'm not actually making a bead. I'm just showing you how to make these applique designs. You can, for example, make a little spiral. You just fix it, just press on one end, and then gently bring it around. Now, somebody was telling me that they have problems doing this. Okay, come on, Miss Camera. Let's focus. There we go. And then you just gently turn it around until you get your spiral, and it unfocused again. Come on. Oh God, it drives me nuts. There we go. And then you just place it however you want and to connect whatever you want it to connect. But essentially, this is how you get a spiral. Oh, Kelly, you're something else. Yeah, and then of course you can just, place little leaves, actually slices of cane that will not be embedded as a veneer, but will be actually applied. Like you can have a little, let's say a little leaf. I turned off the light and I don't see now. You can have a little leaf cane, a miniature leaf cane, and you just cut a slice and then place it on your bead and then use a little bit of veining on it. I think that's what Tiny Pandora calls scanning, sculpting with canes. But pretty much this would be the applique. And then another thing that you can do and that I find it's very, very interesting is using pretty much faux seed beads if you want. Because what you do, you just make a little string. And then for me, it's kind of hard to do this because of I have issues pinching. But you make little dots. And then you create patterns with the dots. And the same way you can create micro mosaics. Oh, that's nice, Tina. What's his name or her name? So, and find another spot. You just lift your dots. Let's wait for the camera to work. And you use the dots exactly like if they were seed beads to create patterns and designs with them. And they can be of different colors. Or you can do micro mosaic. Oh, what's her name? Cynthia something. I have a. I'll have to go look. That she's. Oh my goodness, Kelly. Um. Oh, what's her name? I'll have to go look. She does micro mosaic. Actually, she makes little pieces of string that she creates designs with, but pretty much like this. So this would be the different types of applique that are the basic applique to apply on beads. And you can see that you can get really, really pretty beads with this. Now, with most of them, I would not varnish because you don't really need to varnish. It makes them look plasticky, especially if you have flowers and stuff. It would make them look very plasticky. But yeah, it should work. It should work. Bonsoir, Karine. It should work, Christy. But it depends. If you, what do you want to do? You want to just bake clay on wood? Usually don't even need that because clay would adhere to wood. Wood is porous. Yeah, just message me on the group with whatever you need to do and I'll tell you. Okay? Yeah, I know it's you, Kelly. I've been telling you, I've been calling you. Cover a dowel. Yeah, that should work. I mean, you shouldn't even have the need if you're not removing the dowel from there. The clay should just stick to the wood because the wood is a little porous. But you can cover it. Yeah, Cynthia Tinapo. Exactly. Teresa, thank you. I couldn't remember the T name. Um, but if you need to remove the dowel, then it's more tricky. But yeah, of course, you can add some bacon bond to secure it. Okay, now I've shown you the basic appliques that you can, floral, pretty much appliques that you can put on beads and where to put them and the most basic type of beads. Donc, je vous ai montré les appliques de base. Aussi les formes les plus communes des perles. La prochaine fois, on va faire des cannes, des tranches de cannes. On va couvrir ces formes de perles avec des tranches de cannes et je vais vous montrer comment positionner les tranches pour avoir une couvraison optimale. So we got the practically covered the basic shapes of beads and the basic way of placing applique. And I'm starting to slightly hurt because it's been an hour and a half. But next time, next Sunday, we will do covering the beads with cane slices and I will show you the basics of how to position the cane slices depending on the type of cane, if it's a round or if it is a square or a triangular cane, and depending on the type of bead, so you can get an optimal coverage. So you don't waste cane slices and you don't have uncovered spots. Okay. So thank you for being here with me to the live, and remember to check my Facebook page. And remember the way that Facebook now works. If you, even if you like the page, if you don't come often and like and comment, it's not going to show in your newsfeed. You'll just have to come and check the page for everything that I'm posting. But generally, I post every day all kinds of stuff, either on what I'm working on or various artistic stuff I find, and sometimes even silly things. Yeah, yeah. No, not at this point. I need to upload the stuff in the store, but I'm waiting for a little bit, so because I need to upload the module that's going to automatically calculate the shipping, so I don't have to enter the shipping cost to every product. So yeah, it's going to take just a little bit longer for the stuff to be in the store, but I will be posting soon some tutorials, so you'll be able to get tutorials. But yeah, from now on, I will have probably permanently some type of these stash packages in the store, and only when yeah, I do have a lot of art beads. They were in the store before, and some of them sold, but I put them, my art beads, I put them in the store for as long as I don't have time to deal with them and make them into something. After that, they disappear from the store if they are not purchased. But yeah, you'll see the store working here in very little, because I told you I still need to do that USPS module. So again, thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you next Sunday, and look forward to the Pardo rhodochrosite tutorial, because I'm sure you will love that. If you liked the Primo one, the Pardo is 10 times more realistic. Okay, thank you so much, and have a wonderful remaining of Sunday and of what's left of this week. Goodbye.